do the roll call since I've got the list. And then for the minutes, if you can just ask for a motion to receive and approve the minutes, then we can move forward with that piece of it. Other than that, I think we're ready to, go ahead and admit all. I think we're ready to go ahead and get started, unless you want to wait a minute or two to let some more folks in.
Yeah, we can wait another minute, and then we can get started.
Stacy, how do you get your background like that?
If you go down to the bottom next to the stop video toolbar, there's a little arrow pointing up, and you click on choose virtual background.
Okay.
Upload any picture that you want. And
okay, yeah.
You
don't get my
anywhere.
junky desk and all my plants back there. Okay. Virtual background. I like it. Thanks.
Where you want to be. Today I choose to be at the Roanoke Star.
All right. Joe, if you're ready, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our study committee to reduce gun violence. I hope that everyone's had a great week and just ready to jump in and continue our work. I want everyone to just continue to keep in mind throughout this meeting and as we break into our work groups of our overall goal and mission, which is to reduce incidences of gun violence in the Roanoke Valley. And doing that by creating meaningful programs and responses to the incidences that have been occurring. I know that we will be receiving an update today from the Roanoke City Police Department, and so I'm looking forward to seeing those numbers. And if there's anybody new joining us today who is unsure of what group that you're in, please just send a message in the chat to Joe and just let him know. I do see that Rita's here and hopefully she'll be in our group. So I'm not sure where she's going to be, but I believe that she's in our group for today. So without further ado, we'll take the roll call. And I know last week we only met for an hour because the city had another meeting obligation directly after. Is that the case today, Joe?
No, we are not limited by time today. But I would say that we can gauge where the working groups are in your work, and we can focus on trying to do as much as we can in the hour. I think to honor everyone's time, and if we need to add to that, we can do a check-in at 11 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I know a couple of weeks ago, it seemed like a really quick turnaround time before we had to jump back into the main session. And so I'm looking forward to having a little bit more time today to work with our working groups. All right, and Joe, you can start
Yes.
the roll call. Okay.
Yes, and for those who are participating in the call today, the roll call is for those who are part of the study committee. If you're here because you're part of a working group, I won't be calling your name. I'll just be calling the name of the study committee. But we are grateful for your presence today, and we do note your attendance. Shakira Williams.
Here.
Courtney Penn.
I'm here. I'm sorry, I couldn't get to my.
All right. Tasha Steele. Nicole Ross. Antoine Calloway. Brian Bell. Brian, I think I saw you. Are you with us? Rabbi Kathy Cohen. Natasha Saunders. Jordan Bell. Reverend David Jones.
Here.
Officer Joshua Johnson.
Present.
Bishop Jamal Jackson.
Present.
Stacy Shepard.
Here.
Troy Gussler.
Here.
David Thomas. Yvonne Thomas.
Here.
Dr. Mark Hamill. Reverend Tim Harvey.
Here.
Anthony West. And Vice Mayor Joe Cobb. Was there anyone whose name I didn't call that's on the study committee that is here?
Stephen Yamichak.
Yeah, Stephen, you're on one of our working groups, so thank you. And anyone who's on a working group, we've noted your attendance in the as a participant today. When we call the roll call, it's just for members of the study committee designated by council.
Gotcha.
That's the difference. So thank you all. Thank you, Shakira.
Just really quickly, Ryan said that he was on, but for some reason he keeps getting kicked off. And so
I'm not sure why he's getting kicked out unless it's a wireless issue, a connection issue. But
yeah,
if he,
it could be with his own computer.
Okay.
But he did say he said he's trying to come back on.
okay, and we'll watch the waiting room.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. And so everyone did receive the minutes that we sent out. And so if I could get a motion to.
Just Shakira, before we do that, I do need to just add that I inadvertently left one person off of the minutes who was present at our July 31st meeting, and that was Yvonne Thomas. So I've made that correction. So
Okay.
Whoever moves to adopt the minutes should note that amendment. I'll move adoption of the minutes as amended to include Yvonne Thomas.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. And all of those in favor of passing the minutes with the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, please say nay. All right, so the ayes have it and the minutes pass. Do you want me to do two separate minutes approvals?
No,
Or-
that's got it.
Good, okay. All right. So I do know, to my knowledge, I believe that we are going to be receiving an update today.
You want us to bring that up on screen now?
Yes, in a second. So before we do that, I just wanted to go ahead and just explain for your working group so everyone can kind of be thinking about that. Please continue working on your goals. You should have some goals that have been developed now. Some suggestions for those of you who do have your goals. My suggestion would be to break each individual goal down. That way you can begin to have an action plan. So you can start developing an action plan for each specific goal. Inside of once you develop your action plan, you should be able to see potential budget recommendations for that. That most likely will take some time developing an action plan for your goals. And so if you haven't kind of worked out your goals yet, please continue to work on that. If you have worked out your goals, go ahead and break that down. A question that you can ask yourself about your goals is what elements need to be included so that this goal can be accomplished. You'll need to list out your steps for that. So, and if anyone has any questions, please just send me a message in the chat box. Okay, there was a question in the chat box, but it was not for me. And unfortunately, with the chat box, you do have to chat everyone. But if you send me an email, I will put my email in the chat box. I can answer some questions there. Okay. Joe, you can put the presentation up.
Okay. And I believe Captain Cates is with us today. He's going to be with the City Services Working Group. Captain Cates, are you on with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would you be able to give us an overview of these of this current data?
What was included?
Yeah, we just pulled it up on the screen. We got to share the screen here. There we go. Can everyone see that? Can you see that, Captain Cates? Is anybody there?
I can see it.
All right, go out of that. I don't know what's going on. Captain Cates, are you back?
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
But we're going to share the screen again. All right, can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there any way that can be made a little larger?
We can try to fit to page. There we go.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Captain.
All right. So what this does is kind of gives you just a little bit of a snapshot of where the violent crime numbers stand looking back over 2019 and then year to date for 2020 for homicides, aggravated assaults, and domestic related aggravated assaults. The first block at the top is just a snapshot from 2018 compared to 19. And you know, we did experience an increase in homicides in 2019 versus 18, but we had a decrease in our aggravated assaults. And then year to date compared to the same time period for 18 and 19 brings in the 2020 numbers. Homicides year to date are down compared to the previous 2 years, but we've had a very significant increase in aggravated assaults involving gunfire. And then the third block down is looking specifically at just 2020 and broken down into the time period before COVID quarantine as compared to phase 1, phase 2. And as you can see, the numbers have been increasing as they have been eased. And then the bottom kind of gives you a total number of homicides, aggravated assaults, and domestic aggravated assaults, as well as those that were specifically related to gunfire. Does anybody have any specific questions about the information?
I have a question. Is it typical to see an increase in these type of assaults during the summer months?
Absolutely. That's historic.
Okay.
As the temperature increases, those numbers increase.
I have a question as well. This is Tim Harvey. I know it's been a couple of years, but I know in the past there were a couple of really tragic incidents that were gun deaths with some children who had just gotten a hold of a gun and were playing with it, and so it was a completely accidental sort of event. Where would an incident like that be reported in this data, or would it at all?
It's not, those are not, accidental deaths are not included in this data as well as any gun-related suicide. Those are not included in these. These are offender on victim.
Okay. Would those events be counted someplace, suicide, accident, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Where would that be?
Well, typically those incidents where a child obtains access to a weapon and there's a tragic event such as that nature, typically those are in the child neglect, is because that's technically for reporting purposes, according to the FBI, that's where that's what that falls into.
What about suicides?
Suicides are reported separately. They have their own category. And then we try to go in, we have to go in and analyze them as to what the method was.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. For our purposes, do we want to include that type of fatality, suicide, or accident in our numbers for this task force?
Who's asking the question?
Stephen,
Okay, could you repeat the question again?
do we want to include suicide or accidental deaths in our numbers with the gun violence with this particular task force?
I think it would be helpful to the degree that it's allowable. I don't know what the parameters are in reporting that sort of data. Go ahead, Shakira, go ahead.
Okay, yes, we do want to include that. Mental health is a huge part of that, and sometimes you have people who are suicidal and you have homicide suicides. So where they kill somebody else with a gun and then they turn it on themselves. So it is something that is preventable that, you know, we want to address. Typically, you can find suicide reportable numbers on Virginia Department of Health. So I haven't checked what those numbers are currently, but there are ways of finding out. I'm not sure about the breakdown, if it breaks down into localities or not, but that is information that is reported. And so we could certainly look up those numbers maybe for next week and see what those numbers are looking like.
Captain Cates, is that something that PD can include in data, or are you all restricted in any way for doing that?
Include just the raw numbers. We would not be able to include any identifying information, but we could include raw numbers.
Okay, that would be great.
I will transfer that request to Alicia Morrison. She's the one that compiles the information for the chief.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there a possibility to give a little bit of an overview of, the profile of the general offender? I mean, I see the data, but is there consistent commonalities with the offenders that we should know about as a task force?
I don't have the in front of me at this point. I can ask that Ms. Morrison actually compile that, because that data is captured in the reporting system, and so I'd have to ask her to pull that out and include it in the next snapshot.
Yeah, that would be great. But just given your experience, is there anything that would rise to the top just from your working with offenders in this way?
And there again, I would stand to be corrected by the specific numbers, but in general, the majority of the offenders that we see are usually in the early 20s age range.
And I also wanted to ask for next time if we could possibly get a report on gun thefts, like the number of gun thefts, whether they're from vehicle or whatnot, and juvenile gun thefts as well for the city.
I'm sorry, I'm making for it yet, but I'll ask that she include those numbers. I'm not sure if we'd be able to break it down. I mean, we would be able to break it down with the age of the offenders for those incidents where offenders have been identified. But we do have quite a few thefts where offenders have not been identified.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions that anybody has? Is there anything anyone else thinks should be included in future reports? Okay.
Could I
Can you
ask
hear
one
me?
more question, Shakira? Do we know, I have read of some locales across the country where like a gun shop will have a program where if someone is experiencing a mental health crisis, for a fee, the gun shop will store their guns just to get them out of the house for a time being. And I'm just curious if we've investigated doing that. That might be something for our subcommittee to work on, but does that kind of thing exist, or would that be something the police or the sheriff's office would be part of? Just curious about that kind of program.
Shakira, I'd also like to bring up the fact that, you know, as far as the report goes, the specific location of these incidents, of these, you know, people being shot at, if we could get a definite location of where we're having the most issues, it would give us an idea of where to implement a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do first. So.
Okay, so wanting to add location to the reporting for the next 2 weeks. And then Tim, I wasn't sure if your question was for me or for the police department, but I certainly think, you know, that could be something that one of our subgroups wants to work on. I know that suicide prevention does a lot with some of the local gun ranges where they give lock and talks to them and they hand out locks. So I think they would be really interested, I'm sure, in a program such as that because gun suicides do make up, I would say, maybe almost half of
I think it's closer to I think it's closer to 2/3 from some of the statistics I've seen. But yeah, thank you, Shakira. That's great.
Vice Mayor Cobb, do you have you should have the map of locations for gunshot wounds and homicides. You have that? I sent that to Captain Cates. That was part of Alicia Morrison's.
I have not seen it.
Okay, let me try to figure out a way where I can share it on my screen, or I can send it to. Do you want me to send it to you, or Kate's and I have it?
I don't have a way to load it onto the screen here
Okay.
right now. That's uncomplicated. So what we could do, if it's shareable, we could send it out to the participants after unless you want to bring it up, we can do it multiple participants can share, and you could bring it up on your screen and you should be able to share it.
Yeah, as I'm trying to work through it. So I'm looking at the map. It looks like we've had 1 homicide with a gunshot wound and 2 shootings in Southwest. We've had 18 about shootings in Northwest, with one of them being a homicide. Looks like 5 in Northeast, and one of those being a homicide, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Southeast. So about 18 in Northwest, 5, 6 in Northeast, 3 in Southwest, and 4, 5 in Southeast. I'll try to figure out a way to share it though. It is predominantly in Northwest, it looks like.
Thank you for that breakdown. That's helpful.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to break that down. I'll try to find a way to share it.
Yeah, and Courtney acknowledged here, we appreciate y'all's willingness to expand the data set. It really does help us more fully direct our efforts where we need to. Okay, Shakira, back to you.
To you too.
Okay. So I went ahead and just put in the chat box for everyone some just quick basic instructions for your working groups.
You already assigned it. Some of them. Okay, we can get the rest of them.
Okay, for your working groups, if you don't know where your group is or you'd like to join another group, please put that in the chat box. And Joe will work with Tiffany to get you into the right group. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions about the working group activity?
We've had more.
Yeah, safer neighborhoods. education, reducing gang violence and recidivism, city services, and rapid response, and then marketing and communications.
Okay, go back over. All right.
And I do see Nicole is here. I don't know if you saw that, Joe.
I'm sorry, who?
Nicole, I do see her, and
Okay.
yeah, so she is here.
Yeah, sorry, I had an appointment. I was a little late, but I am on the call.
So she set up the rooms, but she didn't put the people in, did she? Okay.
And I was trying to add them as we went, but I don't know. Wonder if I open the rooms, then can I add more?
Yeah, so Joe, it looks like you might be with recidivism again.
Yeah, I am. We're the gang violence reduction and recidivism is going to stay in the main room, and we'll send everyone else. We're having some issues with assigning people, so bear with us, and we'll get this set up really quickly. Why don't you give me a quick call? Let me come over there and see what I.
Now might be a great time to take a water break, a coffee break while they're figuring that out for about a minute or so.
Yes, thank you for your patience. We're getting there.
Hey, Shakira, it's Officer Johnson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so I know at one point we had talked about it, and I know you had talked about gun violence as being a public health issue. I know the Senate has blocked like CDC review of gun violence as a public health issue. And I presented at the very beginning of this. Is any working group working on with Carilion, Radford, Tech, UVA, Lynchburg, Roanoke College, or maybe having a grad student come in and do a needs assessment, health assessment in regards to that? Because we keep putting all this stuff on Alicia Morris, and we have some of the information, but it takes a lot of digging, right? It takes looking at school histories and looking at transcripts to find out if our offenders or victims have graduated, what income they have, and I don't think she has the access to everything that we really need to make the best decision on who we want to focus on. Is anybody working on that? Has that been talked about? If there's a grad student that would want to jump on something like that.
Now, as far as having working group members from those places, we do, but as far as the research goes, I do have somebody who reached out to me from VDH, but from their central office in Richmond. So I can get with them. I'm not quite sure if they're wanting to travel or send somebody, but they were wanting to be a part of this. At the time, they did not have anyone in a position that could be a part of this group. And so maybe they would have filled that position, which I believe is emergency preparedness. And they're probably all focused on COVID right now. But it's definitely something that they're wanting to be a part of. They have, I would say they probably have more tools when it comes to data and being able to analyze that data with graphs and things of that nature. So I'll email her and see if they could put something together for us, maybe to be presented.
Yeah, that's just a thought.
Okay, Shakira, I think we're ready. So hopefully this is going to work. I'm going to send everybody to your rooms. Be kind. And if for some reason you're not in a group, just put it in the chat box and we'll reassign. Thank you all for your patience, and here's hoping. Oh, Captain Cates, I need to send you to Captain. What are you LinkedIn in? What's your are you USAVAWIRN?
No, sir. I thought it should have logged me in with my name.
Okay.
But it may be the one that says iPhone.
Yeah.
Captain Cates does have iPhone. The USA one is Dan Bubar.
Oh, Dan. Okay, great. Hold on a second. Let me get Captain Cates. Where was he?
On the side, right there, iPhone. Right
Oh, this one. Okay. Okay.
And then the USA one.
There it is.
And that one is, okay, that's fine. All right, so we should have in this room, okay, for media that are here, do you all have a preference? You can unmute. If you have a preference on which working group you'd like to go to.
Yes, sir. I was going to be hopefully with Chaplain Cohen and the gang and
Yeah, Jim, you're in the right room.
Okay.
Taj, A. Santos, Ashley Bowles, Jean. Okay, Michelle, I need to get you. Hold on a second.
Hey, Joe, it's Michelle.
Yeah, I'm going to send you over to.
I have an invitation for education and community partnerships.
Yeah.
Also, y'all have gotten real fancy with this whole Zoom thing. I didn't even know we could do this.
Yeah, she just, it looks like she has to accept the invite.
Did you accept the invite, Michelle? There, she did. Okay. All right, James, Alicia, Jean, we'll just leave you all in here unless I hear differently. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Dan, thank you for being here. I'm trying to bring you up into the middle of the screen so we can see you. Maybe when you start talking, it will.
Sure.
Okay, great. Everybody, Dan Bubar is, I'm going to let Dan introduce himself and describe his work. But I had a conversation with Dan to bring us up to speed on the CARE initiative, as well as work that his office is doing throughout the region to address and reduce gang violence. And Dan and I also talked about some models that he's aware of in the region that he's going to give us some insight into. So Dan, thank you so much for being here and your willingness to share with us, and I'll just let you take it away.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I really appreciate the chance to talk with you, partner with you. And we've had, I think, some successful, really good conversations, along the way. I'm in the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Roanoke, but our district covers quite a wide swath of area, all the way up to Winchester and Front Royal, all the way down to east of Danville, and then the rest of the state going west, all the way down to Big Stone Gap. But our main office is here in Roanoke, and we have certainly seen an increase in violent crime and in gang-initiated violent crime. And it's something we're very serious about in our office. Last summer, particularly last summer and late into the summer and fall, with the leadership of our U.S. Attorney, Thomas Cullen, we really instituted what we've called the CARE initiative in an attempt to plant a flag and really work to decrease gang violence in the city of Roanoke. It's not, what the CARE initiative is not, is a task force like what you all have developed and really meeting weekly or monthly, but it really has focused on two specific areas that I'd like to talk about and help familiarize us with. The first is a closer partnership with City of Roanoke law enforcement, as well as our other federal and state partners, to target gang violence, identify it, target it, and work on effective prosecutions. We have seen in our work in the U.S. Attorney's Office a great decrease of gang-initiated violent crime in the city of Danville. And it's something that we've worked on for a number of years, and some significant prosecutions of gang violence in that city. We had a close partnership and continue a close partnership with the City of Danville Police Department, with their Commonwealth's attorney, and have had a very good working relationship with Danville. And it was really the culmination of two significant prosecutions there. We're looking at what we can do here, because we have seen, as our U.S. Attorney really talked about in an October press conference that was attended by the mayor and then superintendent of schools here in Roanoke, that we have seen some increases and some things that have very much concerned us in gangs, formulation, recruiting, et cetera. So as I've said, the first real effort is to partner with Roanoke City. We've been working now. We were working with prior chief Tim Jones. We've been working with the new police chief, Chief Roman, and his leadership in ways that we can work together more effectively and involve our federal agency partners as well to combat violent crime, and specifically gang-initiated violent crime. Those are not things that the public can really just jump in and join us with as much. Those are more law enforcement strategies and kind of partnerships that we're working on there. But that's going on and will continue to go on, in the coming weeks and months. Something else, though, that's really a priority of this initiative that really began in earnest last fall, is the goal of increased educational opportunities in our schools. And that's something that the U.S. Attorney is very excited about. Now, what we started was to partner with, again, then Superintendent Ms. Bishop, who's now gone, Dr. Bishop, who's gone. And we had some ideas and good conversations going with Chris Perkins. Todd had met Tasha Steele through this working group and had begun some pretty good conversations with them about some effort that we have and some opportunities that we have in terms of a program that's called the GREAT program, the Gang Resistance and Education program, that is targeted for late elementary school and early middle school. I know that Chris Perkins has talked about what Roanoke City does have. There is some anti-gang initiative work and teaching that does exist. But this is a more fulsome program that is taught and has had success nationally, and even in the eastern part of our state, adopting their curriculum and kind of moving forward with it. It's really led through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, teaches local police to teach this program, and they've seen success in it. We were working on having these conversations and moving forward with them. And of course, there were pretty significant leadership changes, both in the police department and with Dr. Bishop leaving, and some leadership locally as well. So we kind of paused those efforts, and then COVID also happened, and we've been hesitant to really push too hard, given all that our school districts are working on, just with simply how they're going to teach school children going forward in the moment. But this is something we want to continue to offer. There could be funding opportunities in terms of teaching the teachers that would teach the GREAT program as an option. So we're looking for ways to work with you all, partner with you, and think about ways to potentially roll that program out if it's accepted and adopted by the various school entities here. So those are a couple of the things that we're working on and are pretty excited about, and happy to kind of continue the conversations with you, Joe, and also with the folks that are involved in this task force. We want to be a resource and a conduit of ideas, as well as potentially federal funds or ideas and partnerships that we have with federal law enforcement throughout the area.
Thank you, Dan. One question before I open it up to our other working group folks for questions they may have. You and I have talked a little bit about the work that Danville is doing in their community. Is that something you could just share with us a little bit?
Well, how long do we have? Danville has been a project of our office, and really focusing efforts there for as long as I can remember. I joined the office 10 years ago, and different leadership has sort of come and gone in my office, and it's always been a stated desire to increase efforts, partnerships, and ultimately prosecution there, such that we could really stem the tide of gun violence in that city. As we've known for the past number of years, gun violence and gangs have really run roughshod in Danville, and it's been very concerning. What it took, I think, is the confluence of a number of things coming together in 2016 or thereabouts. There were a series of gang-related homicides that happened, and a couple of bystanders who weren't even involved in either of the warring gangs were killed. There was a new police chief that just came in, has only been there about 2.5 years, Scott Booth. The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office down there was just being overrun with trying to do cases and massive homicide cases. The place was just ripe for us to come in and really sit around a table and seek solutions together of how to do cases, do them effectively, and really try to seek good results. So what happened was we instituted, not to get all sort of federal speak here, but we put together, it's called Project Safe Neighborhood, which is a really targeted program nationally. It was around even back in the 90s, but has taken on some new life in the past 3 to 4 years, that really targets gun violence from a prosecution perspective federally. They don't want to see us just doing as many gun cases as possible. That's not the point of Project Safe Neighborhood, but it's to really target where are gun crimes being effectuated. How can we effectively target those areas and those individuals who have a criminal history and want to shoot other people with guns? How do we target those folks and remove them through prosecution from our society so that they stop shooting other people? So we have targeted 3 areas in our district. One is Danville, the second was Roanoke, and the third was Lynchburg. And Danville was really the first in line, but we sat with and really partnered with these local entities who were really willing partners, and started to investigate this series of gang shootings that led to some deep hurt and divide in those communities. What we found was very willing partners in the city of Danville with their new police chief, and it took they really took on this project, and through the prosecution of quite a few individuals in 2 different large cases, we were able to kind of rethink the way that prosecutions are done there and that cases are investigated. And it's led to just a massive, not just that, those two prosecutions are not the only thing that's happened there. But because of this, I think, close partnership and good working relationship that we have with Danville, and just this confluence of interest in kind of doing things a little bit differently, it's led to some pretty significant results. I think that there's interest. I've heard that there's interest in kind of working and hearing from Danville. I believe that you've had some interest in that. I know that they're doing some pretty neat community outreach as well. They have an anti-gang position. I believe he's a former gang member, Mr. David. I have his name written down in my notes, but I believe I sent that to you. Robert David is the youth prevention coordinator. Danville has relied upon him to go into neighborhoods, and he's been able to talk to folks that maybe otherwise city police wouldn't have access to in terms of relationships and communication. He's been opening some avenues in terms of conversations and discussions, I think. I don't know a great deal about how they rely upon him, but I was actually in Danville yesterday talking to the captain over investigations there, and they have really kind of rethought some things and have been open to sort of some new ideas that are pretty impressive. And I believe that there's going to be some additional conversations going on there. So we hold out Danville as a really important and good example of what can happen, and we've also enjoyed really good partnerships and relationships with Roanoke City. We hope to continue those with new Chief Roman, and those are happening. Captain Cates has been a part of this discussion today. I saw his face on there. We've had a great relationship with him. We are doing, in our view, really good work with their homicide detectives, and we will continue that strong partnership and continue to look for that to develop and grow.
Thank you, Dan. For those of you in this room on the working group, what questions do you have for Dan? You can just unmute yourselves if you have any questions.
When you say you are looking for partnerships for folks to be able to deliver the curriculum, is the curriculum delivered by law enforcement officers only, or could that curriculum be delivered by community partners?
Well, that's a great question. I know that, so I haven't sat through a training of the GREAT program. I know that the instructors that they typically train and use are local police officers. That's the way it's been communicated to me. Whether that is the only folks that they teach through, or whether there's openness to partnering with other community individuals, I simply don't know the answer to that. I think that would be something that would be fairly easy to answer. And I think that, from our perspective, we ought to think about, who is the best deliverer of that curriculum and of that message. And maybe in a perfect world, it's a partnership, right? It's law enforcement has kind of a seat at the table, as do other people. So I think that's something that we could kind of investigate together and look at. It's a 13-week program. That's the curriculum. It's pretty intense, and the training is pretty intense. It's not free. They either take the teachers to their facility and teach them there, or they'll come to us if there's enough interest in individuals who would want to be trained. And so there's a couple of different options there. But in terms of specifically answering your question, I'm not sure what the answer is, but that'd be something we could pretty easily find out.
Just wanted to mention, I have contacted a friend in High Point, North Carolina. His name is Greg Commander. He served 18 years, lost an eye in a gang fight in the 70s when the feds were called in for the Juice Crew, which he was a member. He's now got his master's in theology, he's doing very well, and started the Commander Peace Academy, which is running in High Point. And trying to make contact with him to see how he's doing it and what might be something that we maybe even could talk about. And also, Dan, were you ever involved in the call outs in High Point with Citizen Advisory?
It's funny you could mention High Point. So when you said High Point, that was the first thing I thought of.
Right.
I'm really familiar with what High Point's done. We have done call-ins here in Roanoke. We have done call-ins. I was in the Eastern District of North Carolina, U.S. Attorney's Office, for a couple of years. We did them there. And we have seen at least, some modicum of success in doing those. And I venture to say that that's not something that's worth abandoning. I think that those are good ideas. High Point really holds that out as something that's been very positive for them. I didn't mean to cut you off, sir.
Oh, you're fine. Like I say, mainly I'm going to try to contact Commander and see if there's any way he even might could come and talk to some of the groups or something. So thank you. And I'm going to have to run to work here shortly, but it's been my pleasure and look forward to the future.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions that you folks have?
Yeah, I guess I'll hop on and ask a question really quickly. First of all, Dan, thanks for dropping by and joining us today. Bit of a two-part question. I know you mentioned that Danville for the longest time was the first in line in terms of your gang violence response. What was the moment when you realized that Roanoke needed some extra attention as well? And what were the main lessons that you learned in your Danville response that you hope to implement up here?
Thanks for that. So I think that look, Roanoke's always been a priority, but U.S. Attorney Cullen really carried that message, delivered that message last fall in his press conference when we rolled out this initiative that, you know, gang recruitment is something that's happening, and it's happening even you know, school age children younger than high school. And I think that we looked at some of those things happening as well as the increase in gun violence, and really said we need to do more. We need to do more along these lines, and we need to make a concerted effort, not only on the prosecution side, but trying to be a good partner educationally as well, and on the prevention side. And in Danville, we learned a lot of good lessons. We're continuing to learn them, but we look forward to you know, continuing there and taking those you know, good partnership lessons and moving forward, you know, not just here, but throughout our district as well.
And Dan, just so you know, that was a reporter.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Mr. Simmons. And
okay, all right. He always asks good questions, but I wanted to make sure you knew that distinction.
I should have said that in the beginning. I apologize.
That's all right. Thanks, Taj. I wanted to take a minute. We've got a couple minutes before we'll join the main room again. Ann Fisher, I also want to welcome you. I know this is your first meeting to be with us. Could you just tell us a little bit about the work you're doing?
Yeah, I'm with Virginia Cares here at the central office in Roanoke. However, we do have a program in Danville, and I will mention that we just applied for the PSN grant, and we centered on the Danville office in that area, and working with the gentleman down there on the gang violence reduction, into doing some education, a mentoring program between juvenile offenders and those individuals who have been in the adult system in an attempt to hopefully and who are tied to gangs. And Anthony West is actually more familiar with it. He helped draft up the grant application for us. But Virginia Cares has been around for about, we're closing in on 40 years now. And we have been working with individuals both pre-release and post-release, and the pre-release program differs according to location, what the jails and institutions let us do in those areas. And but we are post-release in 8 different service sites, and we serve over 34 counties in Virginia, providing evidence-based programming using the Carey guides for, and our staff are also trained in thinking for a change, to provide employment assistance, one-on-one case management, and we also work with our local landlords for housing assistance. So just about any, but we are just we are not a mandated program. We do have a mandated program in our Newport News office, where we're actually working directly with the Commonwealth attorney there, and they do an alternative sentencing program with us for some of their younger offenders who are first-time nonviolent offenders, and they sentence the individual to our program in lieu of jail time. And if they complete our program, then their conviction is wiped out. So it's very helpful. It's a good program. We're not doing a lot of it. It's just getting started. It's like a pilot. So, but we do most of our services are post-release currently, obviously, with the current COVID situation. And I do want to give a pat on the back to the staff across the state for Virginia Cares, because they have maintained services to their returning citizens at their locations. We actually did not have a drop in the number of individuals that we saw for the fiscal year that just closed out 18-19. In fact, we saw more individuals for that last year than we did in the previous year. So, and managed to serve them. So I'm very proud of what the staff has been able to do under this situation. And I'm grateful to be invited to this group and to this working group. And I look forward to what hopefully we can do here in Roanoke.
Thank you, Ann. And before we bring everybody back in, I wanted to ask you all, would you all be interested in, if we invited Robert David, who's the Youth Prevention Coordinator in Danville, to join us for a portion of our next meeting? Would that be helpful? I'm getting nods. Okay. We'll do that. All right. Thank you all so much. And I'm going to let everybody else back in. Close all rooms.
Thank you.
Well, they'll be back in 54 seconds.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I was taking notes. We forgot to assign someone, so.
Thank you, Jamie. I was jotting a few things, so let's compare our notes and hopefully we'll have everything down.
Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, we've also recorded the session, so if we need to go back and check anything, we can do that.
This is the first time I used the room too. So.
There we go. All right. Thank you all. I think everybody's back in. Shakira, we're back. I think everybody's back together. Before you carry on with the next part of this, I want to apologize to you all for some issues we've had today. I want to thank Tanya Pickett, who is our neighborhood services coordinator, for pinch hitting today. Tiffany was not able to be with us, and I think between us we've both learned a lot and been incredibly frustrated by the challenges. So for those who got kicked out and not able to get back in, we apologize for that. For those of you who've joined us for the first time, welcome. We'll continue to work out these kinks. I do think this is a great way for us to meet, especially during this time. So thanks, Shakira, for letting me just add that little disclaimer and caveat, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, of course not, no problem. I do have a quick question. I was in mid-sentence when it kicked us out, so I don't know if there were other people in mid-sentence who would like to just finish their sentence from their group. Now would be the time to do that. So I'm just telling my group to go ahead and keep the link that I sent, and hopefully Stacy will include it in the minutes. And we will continue that next time and try to organize it a little bit better.
Connor, it might be good to just have the facilitators from each group today just do a quick check-in.
Yeah.
Before we adjourn.
Yeah, and that way you can give any post instructions that you didn't get to give. So I'll let Stacy, since she is our recorder, do that for my group.
I can go ahead. We had 24 suggestions come in today for things that would help with our rapid response strategy and elements. We had a great little group work exercise using the Google Jam, putting sticky notes, and had some great suggestions. Some of those things we were able to narrow down that were some duplicate ideas and suggestions. So we're putting those into categories and naming those really major elements that we want for our teams, such as therapy and counseling and conflict resolution, emergency resources. So we're really looking at some really strong pillars for the emergency response. So I feel like we really made some good progress today for the foundation of our response team.
Thank you, Stacey. Safer neighborhoods, Nicole.
We did some introductions. We had some new folks into our group, so a lot of our time was spent on that. We do have a date for our, we're gonna record a YouTube story of the little blue truck. We're planning to have that recorded by August 24th on YouTube so that we can actually get it to the teachers by their first day of school so that they can use that in the kindergarten and classrooms, teaching compassion and love for our students. And I'm gonna speak back to Justin. He did approve us to do that into our classrooms. But since it's gonna be a video, we'll see if we can increase that from just the kindergarten classroom to maybe even K-3, because I think it's age appropriate for up to the 3rd grade. So that's something that we do have, that we're working on, and we have a deadline on. We also, we found out some information, so we may be looking to bring the task force to be the oversight group for the Bridging the Community Gaps event in December, but that we will bring back to everyone. And I wanted to give, if we have a quick second, Miss Yvonne Thomas. She had a good question for something that I thought would be for the whole task force. Yvonne, do you mind quickly stating what your question was so that we can pose it to the entire group?
One of my questions, and I work at Lansdowne, which is the largest housing site, but also work with the other housing sites in the Roanoke City. How many of, and I don't know if this is possible to get this data, how many of the things that we see, they can come from arrest reports or other information, are from people who actually live in the city, as opposed to people who may be coming in, doing certain things and then leaving. And I don't know if that's doable, but I work with police a lot, and most of you in one form or another the last couple of years. And I'd like to know if that is possible to get some type of information about who are the initiators of this. I know, and I explained this, I said, I know anecdotally who I see driving in, and I'm at Lansdowne, it's one way in, one way out. I see who's driving in on Friday afternoons. These are not cars that people from the neighborhood have. So, and then I see them, you know, they're driving out. We have cameras everywhere, but I think that that would be something that if we could look at how actually who are the perpetrators, the people who get others involved. And I don't know if that's a real thing or if we can get empirical information, or it's just a question I'm interested in following up on.
Okay, thank you so much. And I wanted to pose that to Chicago, so maybe we could look at, you know, seeing how you could incorporate that question into the next meeting so she can get some, you know, some clarity on that. That's a great, something that I had never thought about, non-Roanoke residents bringing the violence to our city.
Yes, that's a really good question. I have written that down. I do think that is information that is reported, because I know I've gotten some data from other counties where crimes were committed in their county, but they noted that those people were from Roanoke. So I'm sure that Roanoke does the same thing.
Thank you.
So I'll talk with Josh about that.
And our homework is to start thinking about budget so we can bring that information to our next meeting.
Thanks, Nicole. So I have Ryan Bell next. I know he was having some issues getting logged on. I'm not sure if he was ever able to make it.
Yeah, I think it was a tag team effort with Karen and Katie and somebody else. So I'm not sure.
Did
Karen?
anybody?
I think that Ryan was working on a date. Our plan last meeting was to get together a group of providers that are already offering a curriculum or have interest in offering curriculum, who have relationships with youth and families and providers already. So Blue Ridge, Carillion Adolescent, Family Service, the people who are already working in that space. And I know Ryan was working on a date. Our goal is the second week in September. I think there's something that we needed to work around, but that's still the plan. And that's just, Ryan never could connect. So we threw out some providers that we'd like to invite, and we're just waiting on a date and to set up a Zoom, and then we can invite our providers.
Thank you, Karen. Ryan, are you back in? I know we tried to. Are you on the call now? Doesn't sound like it. All right. Well, hopefully we can get that resolved.
All right. Thank you, Karen. So I have Joe reporting for reducing gang violence and recidivism.
Yes, we spent most of our time getting an update from Dan Bubar with the Department of Justice here locally, learning about initiatives through their Office of Prosecution. The CARE initiative, which we've talked about, is not so much a task force as it is an effort bringing partners together, including Roanoke City Public Schools, Roanoke Police Department, this study committee, Department of Justice, to look at ways we can collaborate to address gang violence. He talked with us about a program called GRAPE. It's a curriculum for elementary and middle schools. And so we're going to do some more research on that and look into what the training consists of and if the training is available for community partners in addition to law enforcement, because we felt like it was important that that it be a multifaceted, that the trainers reflect the community as well as law enforcement in teaching that curriculum. So we're going to follow up on that. The other thing we talked about was he shared a lot of information with the work that their office is doing in Danville. And so at our next meeting, which will be on the 28th with this working group, we're going to invite Robert David, who is the Danville's Youth Prevention Coordinator, who works specifically to address and reduce gang violence in the community, and their work has been very effective. We're going to invite him to join us for our working group for our next meeting to get some more information about the work they're doing in Danville.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cobb. And I believe, last but not the least, we have Courtney Penn presenting for marketing and communications.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Bishop Jackson and Nicole Ross. Since our last meeting, I've kind of reached out to get some assistance and guidance from them on some persons to be invited to our next step, which is a brainstorming event on communications and marketing of this kind of gun violence reduction message. We've got 2 days planned, 2 potential days held actually in September, and we'll be getting our invites out, within the week. We'll choose whichever day the majority of folks can come, and hopefully we'll come out of that meeting with some communications and marketing wins that we can push forward with. We want to work with the other groups on helping to get the word out on the projects that you guys are working on. Both things that you're doing that are immediate and things that you're doing that you're planning for down the road. We've talked some about going around to groups like the Kiwanis group or the Chamber and kind of inform them where we are as a study group and the things we're working on as a way to kind of better inform the public about what's happening and how they can come and get involved and help you move the needle with your different groups. We've talked some about how we're going to structure that meeting that we have and what we'll end up bringing back to this group. But at this point, we're pretty goal-directed right into the brainstorming meeting that we'll have in early September. And from that, we'll have something to bring back to you at some point shortly thereafter.
Awesome, thank you. Well, looking forward to hearing about those dates that are chosen. And does anybody else have any questions or any comments?
Shakira, it's Officer Johnson. I'm sure some of you may know. So we've just had our 8 OR board interviews for the community mitigation and trauma, community volunteer and trauma mitigation coordinator here in the police department, which was part of that grant position. I think that's hit the chief staff's Captain Cates for the candidates, so hoping to move forward with a hire there. And Captain can kind of expand on that role and that aren't aware of what that position is going to be doing. I'll let you talk, Captain Cates, if you're okay with that.
Oh, sure, thanks. The interviews have concluded, and we'll be making a decision soon on offering that position to someone. The position is, the primary role will serve to recruit and train and guide a group of volunteers, of course, toward the end goal of working in our communities where violence is most prevalent, to mitigate the violence and the outcomes of that for everyone involved, not just the offender and victim, but also to kind of with the end goal of reducing and eliminating the violence in our communities.
Thank you for that update. I forgot that was something we were going to do in the very beginning. So we will be looking forward to hearing more about that. Is there any other announcements?
I just wanted to thank Rita for stepping in and pinch hitting and talking to the news crew. I know I called her last minute and she was able to get that done. And we did get some promotion or, some conversation that went out a couple weeks ago on the media lines. I didn't even get to see it. I missed it, but I'm gonna try to find the link that I can share with everyone. So Miss Rita Joyce, thank you for meeting with the gentleman, very short notice, and talking about Fed Up and what we're doing as a task force to help, to meet the needs of our community. So thank you.
Rita was on her phone and she had some technical difficulties, but I will definitely pass it along to her.
Thank you so much. Yeah, she did a great job. And it was like, I called and she said yes. And he just met her and she made it happen. So I just wanted to.
She made a sacrifice because she reached out to me to try to do it. I couldn't do it. So she made a huge sacrifice. Yeah, definitely shout out to her.
So we wanted to make sure that we got that. So thank you so much.
Shakira?
Yeah.
Just a reminder, everyone, if you could send me your minutes, I posted my email in the chat box. If joseph.cobb@roanokeva.gov. If you can send me your minutes, that would be very helpful. I'm also going to work between now and the next meeting with Shakira to get a document together that makes it easier to track what all of the working groups are working on, and does so in a format that we can more easily communicate the efforts that we're working on in relationship to the recommendations, and then be able to report those out a little easier for each of our meetings.
Yes, so we actually do have one, so I will send that out again. It's in a shared drive, but I'll make sure that gets out to everybody, and I can actually add the file to the chat box, or I'll send it to Joe and he can add it, or the city can add it to the chat box. So thank you everyone for coming to our meeting today. And those of you, if this is your first time, welcome, and we hope that you come back. Our next meeting is Friday, August the 28th at 10 a.m.
All right. Thank you all.
Y'all enjoy. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
What do we need to do?
You should just press end and then
Stop.
yes, stop.